Yeah. This is so bad. It's so bad. It's really bad.
Just like changes in it's really gotten
In the popcorn bag, in a plastic bag, in the it's like,
But the-
like, I'm sure it's everywhere. Yeah, I think.
And I just.
All right, everybody, we're going to get started just so that way I can honor everyone's time. And I'm going to let you guys know now, I am recording this, and that's why I'm going to be seated here just in case. It might make it a little bit easier because there's a bunch of people who are at the TABCO meeting. I want to make sure that they get all the information as well. And if any of your peers ask you about the information that we went over today, obviously, if you want to share information with them, that's great. If you want to shoot them my way, I would be glad to help as well. We're really just going to be going over some general information. I just wanted to kind of collect people's information, really more for next year. The registration, all of that doesn't really start until over the summer or after the summer, either way. It's just, I know a lot of us like to get ahead of stuff while we have a little bit of this free time or minimal free time. And that way we can spend a little time looking at kind of what the components are, kind of what the requirements are. And again, start some of this planning sooner rather than later. So today really is just going to be kind of an information share, resource share. My goal was to get everyone in the Schoology groups. That way, as I get updates from BCTS and from the national board, I can share them with you guys. Also, as we approach next year, I'll share some surveys to kind of figure out how we kind of want to do this program. This is something that we're doing in-house, so we're really flexible, and I want to make sure we get everyone's input when we're kind of designing it. I will also be joining you guys in the cohort. This is just something that it's been on one of my personal goals for some time, but you know that professionally you have stuff you have to do, personally you have stuff you have to do. So kind of the stars aligned when I was getting a lot of people asking me questions about this. So I figured, you know, if we got a group of people who were interested, you know, having a nice support system really would make the process easier, you know, reminding each other of due dates, having sets of eyes from all different contents to be able to view your components and have so many different perspectives, whether it be from education, pedagogy, or just your own personal view of what we do in this building, I think can lead to success for a lot of us on this pathway. So whether or not you're interested in starting it this year, next year, whatever, this is, or if you started it already, again, this is just kind of an idea to get some information to you guys and kind of lay the groundwork for a program that we can start next year. Right, let's see if, there we go. So what we're going to go over, what is the National Board Certification, the goals of the National Board Certification, kind of who should be doing this, along with the costs, and then our supports offered by BCPS, as well as supports offered by MSDE and the National Board. If you have not joined the Schoology code, you can take a picture of this. I also shared this in an email with anyone who registered for this event. If you didn't register, that's perfectly fine. Please just let me know, because I sent out a really important kind of living document where I've been kind of collecting as many National Board links as I possibly could, or at least the ones that I deemed important. I also emailed a really nice flyer that BCPS just put out for the 2023-2024 school year about National Board Certification and some of their incentives, as well as fee waivers that they can do to kind of help with the cost of all this. So again, I'll just leave that up for a second for anyone who needs it. And again, just shoot me an email if you weren't in the email chain. I've also put all of the resources that I put in the email in our group, or in the group. National Board is for all different types of educators. They have a lot of different disciplines. For BCPS, there is not as many as what you would think. In the pamphlet that I emailed you guys, I think it's shared that there's like 1,100 teachers in Baltimore County Public Schools who are certified. Hey, how you doing, guys? Who are certified. So, and I think last year only 10 people started. So there's lots and lots of space. They are really trying to strongly incentivize this and encourage this. And it's only going to be more and more incentivized. In fact, some of the new proposed pay scales that are being pushed out factor in national board certification, like you would see a master's plus 60, a master's plus 30, something that not only would you get the incentives from MSDE and that would be matched by BCPS, you would also get an increase in your salary as well. And I will also say I'm not an expert at this by any means. So if you have specific questions, please do not hesitate to ask, but just know that I may have to refer to someone else and get you those answers. Oh, last thing kind of down here, certificate is valid for 5 years. So just like if you've ever done your recertification for your teaching certificate, you also would have to do a recertification for something like this. The goals is really to just increase the capacity of educators and ensure that across the board in the United States that there are high standards for education. Not to say that the standards from Alaska are substantially different than that of Florida, but having a national set of principles and standards really do help ensure that students across the United States receive equitable and quality instruction. And it also, one of the benefits of this is if you were to change states, if you went from teaching in Alaska to teaching in Florida, you wouldn't need to jump through any of the red tape hoops required for changing your certificate. This makes you, I mean, I know it says nationally board certified, but this makes you a certified teacher in all 50 states. These are the core principles. You'll see a lot more of these in the documents. Again, today's just really more of a general information session. When you spend a little time looking at some of the resources that I've sent you, and I'll also kind of debrief you on some of those resources, it gets a little bit more into these principles. Who is eligible? So you need to have all of you are eligible. You need to have 3 years teaching experience. You need to have a bachelor's degree and your license must be active right now. So I know some people who are getting back into teaching think that they can do this to certify themselves. You would actually have to be certified in one state as you're going through this process. Yes.
They changed that first one last year.
Okay.
It's no longer 3 years. It's 3 years by the time you finish. It doesn't have to be when you
Oh,
start.
wonderful. So thank you very much. Yeah. So if you've been teaching 1 year, then you would be able to do that because we'll get into the pathways for it, but most pathways are 1, 2, or 3 years. Who should do this? There are so many different teachers who really qualify for this, but the way that I kind of read through this is someone who wants to push their professional journey, as well as people who would like to be, recognized by the county as being highly qualified educators, and also people who might want to increase their salary annually, if I'm being transparent. Why? Many reasons why. I talked about the national certification element of it. I talked about obviously increasing your abilities as an educator, additional trainings. And kind of the last one why I know a lot of us are here is the extra incentive monetarily. So there are 25 certification areas. I'm going to skip to the next one because that has a slightly better infograph there. I know it's a little bit smaller, but you can see all of the different subject matters and then how they break that down. So they do it by age range. So most of us would be in the 14 to 18 plus. But I know that plenty of people have done the 11 through 15. I have a few buddies who teach in a middle school who have done that, and the workload is very similar. It's just really more the students that you are working with currently, because there is a component where there is a video of you teaching that is being submitted. So I think that they look at that when they are considering the age range. And this I've also shared with you guys in our Schoology group as well as in the email. So if you need to reference this, it will be up there. And also, if any of you are friends with school counselors, I did let them know, are also qualified to be national board certified. Kind of a general breakdown of the components. This is a very oversimplified. There are 4 components. One of them is a kind of like what you would do in your praxis, a content knowledge. So you have to exercise your knowledge of your content, showing that you are a master of whatever discipline that you teach. And then there are some classroom portfolio entries, which include elements on differentiation, a video of classroom assessment, and then the fourth I'm going to put up here. So component 1, content knowledge, component 2, differentiation, classroom practice, and then effective and reflective practitioner. So these are all things, or all capacities that we have. We just need to make sure we hone it to the principles that National Board Certification is expecting. And guys, if you have questions throughout any of this, again, please do not hesitate to shoot those up. Here's a breakdown. They're not all, it's not 25% each one. They are weighted differently based off of how they or what they deem important from the National Board. Again, I'm going to briefly go over each of these because this could be something that, especially next year when we start diving into which components you would like to register for, we can spend a little more time kind of having a PD to kind of pick one or two of them to select, because when you go through and plan your pathway, I mean, just like with life, everyone rides their own wave. Some people might want to do component 1 and component 4 their first year. The next year they might do 3 and 2, or you might just want to do component 1 your first year, and then next year do 2 and 3, third year do 4. It is not set in the structure if you need to complete them in any particular order. So first one, again, content knowledge, differentiation of instruction. This is where you're collecting work from students. You'll have to write some justifications as to why you made some modifications. You know, there'll be artifacts. You'll be, addressing your artifacts, written commentary for each of those. Component 3 is the teaching. This is the video recording where you actually submit I believe it is a full lesson, but depending upon, I guess, what school you work at, that could be a 45 or a 90. So maybe a teaching segment is acceptable. When we spend a little more time looking into that, we'll get more of the specifics. Component 4 is the reflective practitioner, which again, this is commentary on your practice, kind of looking at how our practices in the classroom, practices with the community, and again, kind of seeing how well-rounded you are as an educator. Now, these are the 22-23 dates, just so you know, but normally these dates roll over to be exactly the same. This is from National Board. This is not from BCPS. So when you look at the registration window, it is quite large, right? You can start the registration really for most of that, you can see for quite some time. You can see when you have to select your certain components, if you're changing, if you're going to do 11 to 14 or 11 to 15 or 15, 18 plus. And again, some of these other windows, if you're doing the content knowledge, if you're doing the e-portfolio, when those submissions need to be due. So again, this is shared with you. And as soon as National Board drops the new dates, I'll have that in our Schoology group. Cost. So I'm going to try and break this down as simply as possible. Each component costs $475 to complete. If you do not pass the component, you need to repay for that component. Each year, as kind of like a registration fee, it costs $75. That's just maintenance of your files, having someone, if you got a call and you have questions, that kind of covers, or that's the justification for that cost. I think I have the total. Oh, here we go. It is $1,900 total, not including your registration.
But doesn't BCPS pay for that?
So great question. There are cohorts through BCPS for this. So BCPS, you have to apply. So it's not guaranteed that they will pay for all of it. They have classes. I don't know exactly what the class size is. I know that I read it in the BCPS pamphlet that they sent me. They said 100% of applicants last year were accepted into their cohort because they only had 10 people apply. So I'm not really sure how big that class is or what their acceptance is for that. But there is an application through MSDE and BCPS that helps take care of some of these costs. Again, I'm not sure if that is 100% of the cost or if that's just the $475. We pay the $75. That I could not tell you specifically.
You said the term cohort, just for the sake of clarity. When we say cohort, what exactly do we mean?
So for I'm going to start by defining our cohort is really anyone who would like to start the process or is interested in the process here at BCPS. Or at Parkville High School. The BCPS cohort essentially is just their fee incentive grouping. So they do have optional meetings if you're in the cohort. They will provide you with nationally board certified teachers to ask questions to and bounce ideas off of. They provide some other supports in terms of like test preparation, in terms of like having people look at your components, extra PDs and such. But that's really what they mean by that. None of that stuff is required as long as you're completing your end of the registration components.
But you can be both.
Yes, you can absolutely be in both. Yes. Like I said, I just wanted to do this for our small community or our learning community because I didn't know like what the pass rate was of people getting accepted into their cohort. And I know that there was a lot of interest. So I'd really, like I said, if there were people interested, we would at least have a support system here. Yes.
I'll say there's a group that you can join. She'll meet Morgan. It's the person who runs that on the CPS side. So you could also, I'm like sending her an email right now. Maybe but they run regular classes, and also MSCA will compare you with a mentor. And so I can send you the Danielle Jones from MSCA, I can send that email out to everybody and you can ask them and then they will. So that's like MSCA is the union that are the like statewide union that TAPCO is part of. So if you're a TAPCO member, you could get paired with a mentor. So I got paired with a mentor from Montgomery County, who was a teacher who just like went through the whole process. And they pay their mentors to meet with you regularly and help you with your application.
That's awesome.
Be helpful to you.
Awesome. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the group join code with me, I think it's in the flyer.
It was in the flyer.
Okay, yes, I do believe it is awesome. Yeah, so that has a lot of different resources in it, and I'm sure that they're updating that. And of course, they email me pretty regularly, but I'm sure they're putting in that Schoology group a little bit before that I'm seeing it. So it might not be a bad idea to join both of those. So there are lots of opportunities to assist with that $1,900. And also, again, if you think about that split over 2 years, and you also think about, yes, that's going to put you in the red for a little bit, but if you think about what you get after 1 year of obtaining this, it definitely pays for it. But again, if it's something that we don't have to pay for, it's nice to try and look for some ways to kind of help with that. The standards, again, that's all linked. I'll show you the important links later. You can also get up to 6 CPD credits for completing this as well. And there are some universities, there was a list, they changed the list that they're working with because a lot of the partners that we have with BCPS and institutions of higher learning are changing. Like we don't have any more Goucher CPD classes anymore. They're changing the vendor. So I think based off of whichever vendor they choose, you could pay an additional fee and receive graduate level credits to accompany those CPD credits as well. So if you're someone who's looking for credits, that could be something that you could look into as well upon completion, that is. Again, here I went over the cost of those already. There are plenty of supports available. I have put these into the Google Doc that I shared with everybody. There are, like for component 1, there's so many practice tests from each of the different contents. There's videos you can watch to help you prepare for each of these. Schoology groups for our learning community, Schoology groups for, much larger communities as well. The Candid Center, also a really, really helpful location. That is, a person will pick up the phone. Obviously, once you kind of press 2 and then press 6, but a person will pick up the phone to kind of help you if you're having trouble with the registration or having trouble with the e-filing or submitting your video or anything like that. And again, one of the great reasons that we can have a cohort of people or a group of people supporting one another through this journey is we can all kind of help one another when, the first person hits the road bump, that a bunch of other people are going to hit that road bump as well, and we can all kind of help. Lots of official publications. I will show you where this exists. The link to this is also in this document. In the National Board website is, it is kind of large, but it has excellent resources. It's not like College Board, which has like a lot of like repeated convoluted